guys, it's Kelly here and I'm back with another video for Honeybee Stamps. Today's video is featuring these, they're just beautiful. The seashells, the paradise blooms, and then I also used the waves. I showed you the sand background stencil, or background stamp, but I actually didn't even end up using it. I had a different idea when I first started, but it just didn't come to fruition. I'm going to use the Creative Intense Black ink to do my stamping because I'm going to be coloring with alcohol markers today. And I just stamped out a bunch of these so that I could make a pretty kind of seashell floral bouquet. I don't even really know. You guys know I like to keep it real. I'm just being honest. I don't really know that I necessarily had a vision for it at the end. What I did know was that I just wanted to create something that was summery and pretty, with some flowers. Everybody's been coming out with these like Christmas in July releases, which they're like hitting me with Christmas. And not that I don't love Christmas, it's the birth of my Lord and Savior. But I feel like Christmas takes up so much of my November and December, that like it's really hard for me to be feeling it in the middle of July. So I just wanted to do something beachy and fun with pretty colors and pretty flowers, and so that's how this was born. We talked recently about like titling videos and whether or not you even read the title, and that was really great feedback, by the way. Super helpful. But like I struggle sometimes trying to name my videos, and this one I was like, there is no like different technique, there is no like, there isn't, like, I just wanted to make a pretty card. So I struggled a little bit with the naming, so forgive me for that. These are, you guys know that I'm a big fan of, mixing the new and the old. These are older. I think these were from last summer's release. But they're still beautiful and they deserve to shine. I mean, obviously the florals, you guys know, I'm flowers all day, every day. But the seashells are just beautiful and I really, really like them. So I chose this one to be kind of the focal point of my little bouquet. And then I knew I was going to tuck the flowers in around them. And then when I was choosing my colors, I tried to color the shell realistic colors. And then I just kind of picked different ones from there. I chose to do purple and yellow because it isn't a combination that I do very often. I usually color, and I've colored these before, the hibiscus pink. And that is definitely what I wanted to do this time as well. But I was like, no, switch it up, do something different, color them a different color. So because I had already picked purple for the plumeria, I was like, I'm gonna do yellow because it's its complementary color. I don't hate it. I don't love it. It's okay. I know I don't like yellow, but it's all right. It's not all about me, right? Maybe some of you like yellow and you want to know how to color yellow. And so we did it. So there's that. There is quite a bit of coloring in this one, and I left at least one of everything in. Here doing the plumeria, normally I do a 4-color blend, and I'm not really sure why I didn't pick a 4th color. I think they still came out okay. I mean, they could probably use a little highlight. But I think that the dimension is there because of the dark, that V09, and the way that they're drawn. They have that, that's the way they are in nature. They have that little lip that comes up over them, which, gives you a bit of a highlight and separates the petals. So I think I think that they came out okay. I love this purple combination. It's so bright and pretty, and I know it airs more on the pink side, but that's okay. So what has been going on? I feel a little bit I feel a little bit badly because like when I do these videos for honeybee, the video goes up on the honeybee channel, but it also goes up on my channel. And so people catch them some places here and some places there. And so I do my voiceovers the same way that I always do because I know that it's going to go on my channel as well. But then it also is on the honeybee channel, and there was a lady who she could have been nicer about it, but it's totally okay. Who had commented on one of my last videos that she loves my cards but hates my chit chat. A lot of people feel that way, and that's not me complaining. That's just me stating facts, and I'm totally fine with it. In fact, there was a story that I told on my last video, no, second to last video, about my dogs, and there was a very nice subscriber, and she did say it very nicely. She was like, I love your videos. You are probably one of the most talented YouTubers, but I can't with the sick videos. And I get it. It's okay. Like, don't feel like you have to apologize if I'm not your style. You don't. It's all right. So if you don't like the story time and you want to see the card, mute it. If you have to hear the voiceover in order to enjoy the making of the card, then I'm probably not for you. And that's totally fine. I'm not, what's the saying? I'm not everybody's cup of tea. I'm not. But that's totally cool. So for the leaves, I picked a bunch of different greens just because I really kind of wanted to break up the bouquet. So I did some more yellow greens for the longer leaf. For this one, which is clearly a monstera, I did the kind of deeper, more true greens. I have a monstera downstairs. It's growing. I need to repot it so that it can get even bigger, but right now it fits on my countertop. So I haven't repotted it yet because I'm afraid that Emma will eat it. And no, I know Emma will eat it. She's just that kind of dog. And so I don't want to put it on the ground stand, which I would need to do if I put it into a bigger pot. So right now we're at a standstill with the monstera. It keeps growing upward into my cupboard, because they're vining. But I have a stick. It just keeps growing up. I want it to grow out a little, but anyway. And then for the kind of palm one, I did a blue green. This one I think maybe blends into the background a little bit too much because I did end up doing like a tealish background. But in order to kind of bring it out a little bit, I did do the teal, but then on the tips of it, I went back in with a yellow green and just kind of flicked in a little bit of color to break up that teal and maybe help it stand out from the background. Now, mind you, when I was doing this, I didn't know that my initial background wasn't going to work. My initial background was like an actual beach with the water coming in. Which by the way, this was like a really rough film for me. I don't know why. But so I got out all my inks to film my background. And then at some point I realized when I went to go pause the camera that the camera was already paused, and so it didn't film it, and I was like, you gotta be kidding me. But then I ended up not using the background, so it was okay. But then apparently you'll see at the end of this video, I also did the same thing when I was constructing the card. So you'll be able to see like the finishing touches, but me actually putting the bouquet together is not in this video. It's not in this video because I didn't record it. God help me. So for the hibiscus, they're very ruffly flowers, which I love because it gives you the opportunity to get lots of really great practice in. And so I'm adding shading, of course, to the center of the flower where it will be the darkest. But then I'm also adding just a little flick of the darkest color to these ruffles on the outside edge. And that's really going to give it some depth and dimension and give that flower kind of some movement. really, really pretty. I like ruffly flowers because it gives you the opportunity to add a ton of dimension. And I mean, this yellow combination is pretty. It's more of a golden yellow. I just don't, my best friend's favorite color is yellow. I don't love the yellow. In fact, when we were in high school, she drove a yellow Ranger, like a bright yellow Ranger. Now, to be fair, when I was in college, I drove a teal Ford. What was it? Was it the Topaz was gray? I had two of the same car. So Ford Tempo and Mercury Topaz is basically the same car. And my very first car was my dad's hand-me-down Mercury Topaz. That was his work car. And it was his car, and then it was my sister's car, and then it was my car. And 2 weeks after I got it, it died. So then we bought a Ford Tempo that was teal in color, 93 Ford Tempo. That was, I drove that until I started working at the police station, and I was making enough money that I could purchase a new vehicle. Oh, good times. We're kind of all over the place today with the video, aren't we? So here, all of the coloring is done. I am cutting all of these out with their coordinating dies. And then this is, at this point is when I realized my background was not going to work. So I was going to have to come up with a new background. So what I decided to do was just a teal background. I chose to still use the wave stencil because it added a little bit of texture in the background, just to make it a little bit more interesting. This is sped up. I do not ink blend this fast. But I am going to ink blend it twice. Then I'm going to put the stencil on and I'm going to ink blend some more. So that is why I had to speed it up just a smidgen. Otherwise we would be here for ages and ages. So yeah, so my best friend's favorite color is yellow, but I don't get it. I would be very interested to know is it a popular favorite color? I don't know, maybe because I don't do it, but just like a couple of days ago I did a card that was a purple, like watercolor card, and I don't really like purple neither. So I mean, it's okay, it's just meh, really. Blue is where it's at. I'm so biased. I love blue so much. In fact, the majority of my clothes are also blue. I'm not very interesting when it comes to my dress. We're getting ready to pack to go on our family vacation. And so we were doing laundry. And I noticed as I was folding my clothes, I was like, oof, girl, you are a lot of blue. Like, you got anything else going on here? And the answer is no, not really. I really don't. So here I have my background down. I have it stuck to my sticky mat from my stamp wheel. And then I am just going right over it with the same colors. I went over the whole background with the lightest color. And then I'm going to do the same thing, keeping the majority of the dark to the edges, creating kind of that halo effect. It's not really going to matter because this bouquet of seashell flowers ends up being so large that you really can't see the majority of the middle of the card. You can really just see the edges. Plus I ended up trimming it down. I don't know why, but lately I feel like I cannot make a card that isn't matted. Like, I just can't do it. So here's layer number 1. If you've never used the wave stencil set before, it has a base layer and then it has a top layer. So I did the base layer and then I'm going to do the same thing here with the top layer. Really, really cool look that this creates with the water. Love this stencil. But yeah, so the majority of it you can't see. It just adds some like texture and some movement into the background, so it's not just flat. I also, because I have a real problem with shimmer and shine, I also added some perfect pearls. And not just one perfect pearl, I added 2. So I did some spatters of just clean water, and then I did spatters of perfect pearl in the color perfect pearl, which is like that white iridescent one. And then I did some spatters of gold in the perfect pearl. I mean, I really just went for it. And then once I had my, what is it, folks? My little bouquet, my focal point. Once I had that on the card, and I don't even think I had glued it down yet. I think I just laid it there. I did spatters on top of that too. I spattered all of it, which isn't everybody's style, but look at that. Look at that shimmer. Look at how it catches the light. So here I just kind of laid it out and then just spattered it all right on top of it. So when when I give it to somebody, if I ever give it to somebody, they'll be able to tilt it in the light and see all the spatters. While I had that gold out, I took advantage of it to put it in the centers of my flowers, as well as do the stamen and the hibiscus, so that is all blinged up. I heat embossed my sentiment on black. First, I treated with my anti-static tool, and then I stamped it in our Brilliant White pigment ink, and then heat embossed it with a white detail powder. And the sentiment's cute. You are like a seashell, unique and completely amazing. Like, who wouldn't want to get a card that said that, right? But yeah, so that's what I noticed when I was doing my laundry. I wear a lot of blue. So, and white. I've always worn a lot of white. But my cards are that way too. This one's obviously a very poor example of me liking white, but I do like a lot of white space. So that's really no surprise. Plus, I look more tan in white. Everybody looks more tan in white, which I like, because especially now with the all the SPF that I wear, I'm not really tan, so it makes me feel better. We'll see how it goes with me, 50 SPFing through my entire vacation. Hopefully it goes okay. So here, in attaching the sentiment, I did, because I have this buildup of dyes in the center, I had to actually use 2 different levels of foam tape. So I used a thinner one in the middle and then a thicker one on the ends to make sure everything was flush. And sometimes you got to do what you got to do. You know what I'm saying? And then I'm going to use my little tweezers to put that down. I also wanted to add a little bit of bling to kind of accent the sentiment. And I chose to use some blue ones from the Be Bliss gem stickers. These are some of my favorites. Look at all the beautiful blue. So I put those on as well, and then this is when I decided I didn't really love it without a white background. So I'm going to trim it down, even though everything's already put together. The other thing that you will notice is with my die cuts, I did color the outline a teal color. It's not a perfect match, but it's enough that it blends in more than the white did, and I'm okay with that. So I did have to trim this just a little bit on every side to make sure that my design stayed in the middle. And it did. I mean, it's a very large focal point, so it wasn't too hard to do. And then I'm just going to glue this down flat to a white card base, and then that's going to be the whole card. So thank you so much for hanging out with me. I apologize for the kind of jumping all over story time. Sometimes when you sit down to do this, well, every time, I never have a game plan, and then just through conversation, it just leads to what it leads to. But now, I wear a lot of blue, and I used to drive a teal Ford Tempo. So thank you guys so much for joining me. I always appreciate your time, and I will catch you on the next video. Bye.